Welcome to Spank Odds.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out Spank Gods. So this is the general overview video that I'm making. Uh, let's kind of go over the layout of how Spank Gods is designed. Um, the way I have my setup is as I scroll here, I have some frozen columns on the left. I like to freeze the game number, the date, details column, which will include the scoreboard right over here, which is a live scoreboard, the teams, and then I like to put an opening column here. I have the Chris opening line. And I also have the best column, which I'll be describing. And then we just scroll to the right and you could just see all the books. Um, if you notice, every we have the default view here is for baseball. This is a custom tab, but I have a default view for baseball to show both money lines and the totals. If you ever wanted to change your default view per sport, you just go to columns display settings. Here's your default view for every certain sport. So football sides and totals, basketball sides and totals, baseball totals and both money lines. Let's just say for baseball, you were interested in just seeing sides, for instance, and just you're a run line type of person. You could just do a click and click save, and then here for all the baseball lines, you're going to just see run lines. If you wanted to see both run lines and totals for baseball, you would just say, hey, let me see sides and totals. So then you'll see a run line and a total. I'm not really into that because I like to see the comeback on a run line, and that's not always very clear. Personally, I would always like to see either both run lines or both money lines. With respect to both money lines, as I said, sometimes you can see totals in both money lines. You know, the old school ways to see totals in money line, if you knew what a standard 10-cent line is, a dime line, a 15-cent line, a 20-cent line, but everybody has variable comebacks now that it just doesn't make sense. You don't really see as much information. So at least for me, I like to always make it totals and both money lines and to just combine them with a slash here. So let's just take this Milwaukee Brewers game, St. Louis Cardinals. If you see minus -09, that'll be the line on the Brewers, and the slash, that +01 will be the line on the Cardinals. 9 under 14. When you say 9 under 14, that's just 9 under is -114. Everything is kind of try to slim down as much as possible to try to fit in as much information as possible. And for something like this, let's just say if you just see 9 over here at Ace Sportsbook for this Giants Atlanta Braves game, that's just going to be 9 flat. That's just 9 flat means it's -110 both sides. If you have 9 under or 9 under 20 as it shows here, that's under 9 -20. If you want to see what the comeback is, you could go to just totals or use a hotkey, and then you'll see it's over 9 even money for under 9 -20. Then you could just see all that, and you could see different types of views. Just money lines, just totals. You could have team totals, away team totals, home team totals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I like to keep mine on the default view. If you notice some lines are changing colors all over the place, what does that mean? So something you have in my settings right here in the display settings, back to that, I have if a line just changes, it changes red. Then after 30 seconds, that's my setting. Again, you could set this from 30 to 120. I had after 30 seconds, it goes to black. And then finally, after 5 seconds, I kept it staying black. That's just the way I like it. Some people might want to say, hey, listen, why don't you first, start off going blue and then go to black? Sure, you could try that. And then look, this thing just, and then whatever. And then that happened between 30 and 35 seconds ago. And then now it just goes to black. So you can have it tiered in whatever way format you like to be able to see on how you look at line changes. That's up to you. Again, we try to make this as customizable as possible. If you notice, is when I point on a line, I'm able to see the current, previous, and opening line for a lot of sports books. So if as lines are moving all over the place, we just did for example, at Pinnacle here, this is a good example. Let's just say the opening line is -120. The previous line was -31, and then the current line was -130. For certain sports books, namely Chris, Pinnacle, Circa, we have sides, totals, and money line, your live limits. So if you see when I point at this Pinnacle line, I'll see the Pinnacle's taking 5 dimes on a run line, 3 dimes on a total, 10 dimes on the money line. Then if I scroll up and down, you can just look to see if you look, any limits are out of whack, and they look like they're uniform across the board. Usually you'll see a lower limit on a baseball game if there's a questionable pitcher, or if we don't know if there could be an injury or whatnot. Same thing with Cirque over here. They're looking at 5 dimes. A couple of things have 10 dimes on the money line. Chris, I'm over here. We're looking at 5, 5, and 10 pretty much across the board. Live limits are a big part of it. That kind of gives you a look behind exactly what that line means. I think a line without a limit is like a beautiful house without a neighborhood. You can't really understand what the line means unless there's a limit attached to it. If you have a great looking line, but the limit's only $200, it's really not that great looking. It really means nothing. So I think understanding how limits work and how limit changes happen are an important part. We'll have a separate video on that. If you notice, there's a lot of these things that are boxed, like you see these little black boxes. I could just hit the clear all to just clear all the colors. So if I could do clear all, if you had multiple windows, you could open up multiple windows. And I don't know if you could see this in the video, probably not, but you could open up multiple windows and you could have separate windows on your screen to be able to see it. But and clear all will clear all the windows. If you want to click on last will be able to show you the last line. If you want to click on opener, that'll show you the opening line. And you can sort by time. I don't know. Yeah, we could do a time sort here, and that'll sort the games by time, or you could do a game number sort, which is how you do that. Adjust columns to kind of shrink everything as much as possible, and then chart we'll talk about in another video. If you notice here, there's a lot of these boxed, a lot of boxes. What do these boxes do? These little black boxes that are highlighting essentially shows you the best line in the world. Now, again, when I say it's in the world, it's your world. It's how you set up your bookmaker. So it's in all your columns. And then this best line is then consolidated all in this best column. So if I wanted to know, look, 8/12 right here, it's probably best to look at this in a let's just say a full view. Let's say just totals. So if I have the best is 8.5/22, that's the best over that's there, and the best under is under 9 minus 110. So you just look around, you won't see anything better other than under 9 minus 10. You won't see a better over on this Giants game. Over 8.5 minus 22. Now, the way the best is calculated, it's not just, oh yeah, I'm just going to go over the lowest number and go under the highest number. No, everything is mathematically based. So we're going to know what the 9 is worth, and we're going to know, hey, listen, instead of going over 9, even I'd rather go over 8.5 minus 22. Maybe if that was 8.5 over a quarter, that probably wouldn't be. So it depends on what the actual numbers are worth. It just doesn't just say pick extremes. And I don't know if there's an example on the screen, but I think if you looked hard enough, you might be able to see it for the best. So it's a smart best column, not just like here, for example, the St. Louis Cardinals Milwaukee game. I'd rather go over 9 plus 05, even though Chris has over 8.5 minus 20. No, I'd rather go over 9 plus 05. That highlights what the best is. When you point at the best column, it'll tell you which sportsbook has the best line. So this over 9 plus 05 is at Wynn, New Jersey, but I could go under 8.5 plus 14 at low vig. That gives you the best run line and the best money line. Minus 07 at South Point, plus 06 at Circa. This all these highlights, you could shut them all off again in display settings if you wanted to shut that off, show the border of the best line. If you don't want to show the border of the best line, it won't show the border. So all those are gone. Notice, however, in the best column, this border will always stay if a scalp exists. So in this case, I could go under 9.5 minus 09 at low vig, over 9.5 plus 10 at Chris. So that is live as we speak right now, a penny earned there. And these things happen all the time, but this is something that the best column will always highlight in green if there's a scalp that exists out there. Notice how there's directional arrows. When something moves over here, there's a direction. 7.5 over 17. This thing was over. If I click last over here, that went from 7.5 over 15. Now it's 7.5 over 17. That directional arrow kind of tells you that there was a bet on the over. There was a move towards the over. If it was a spread or a money line, it would be a move towards the favorite. If you see a down arrow, it would be a move towards the under or a move towards the underdog. Again, in the display settings, if you'd like, you could shut off these directional arrows. You could also shut off the current, previous, and lines on the mouse over. You could also shut off columns automatically fitting the data, so the columns automatically expand as data gets filled. But some people like to make it nice and tight, and they make it so that everything is just compacted as much as possible. I personally like to see the border for the best line. I like to see pretty much everything, but you know, I don't like to release the directional arrow. Sometimes I like to see, sometimes I don't. It depends, etc. Alternating colors, have rows alternating colors, so you can just choose which color you want. Right now, I have a gray color, but if you want the rows to alternate, let's just say this color. You just say save, and the rows could alternate this color. Again, everything's fully customizable to your preference. Display a quarter and a 3/4 for soccer. So some people they can't really see the quarter and the 3/4 line for a soccer game. Trying to look for a soccer game that has one of those. Here's 2 3/4 on this Galaxy San Jose game. But if you don't want to see those 3/4, you could always just say display settings, and then you will remove that, and then it'll just show essentially as 2 1/4 in a decimal format. Remove VIG from a consensus line. We're going to talk about a consensus line later, but this essentially, when you see a consensus line, you could attach VIG or remove VIG from it. Opener button color. So this is, again, when you want to see the openers. Currently, the way when you see the openers, you see it as gray. The way that this color is, if you want to see last, you could do that. But instead of blue, let's just say for the last, I can change that last button color to, let's just say, yellow. I'm colorblind, so forgive me if that's not pure yellow. So if I just say now last, then everything just turns yellow. Everything, again, we try to make it as customizable as possible for the best user experience. I think that's pretty much it. Again, if you want to change your font size also, that's another option to do. I think that pretty much wraps it up for everything with respect to your general overview. I'm going to get into a few more details on all the other features that Spank has to offer. Again, moving columns, you could just drag and drop. So if I wanted to just move a column from one side to another, I just drag and drop it, and then it'll just move accordingly. And that's it. Thanks so much, guys, for taking the time. I appreciate it.